Obedience. It's something pretty much every parent and teacher wants, right? We see it as the sign of a good kid, the hallmark of successful parenting. But we really need to pull back the curtain and talk about the hidden side of that so-called perfect behavior.
Because what if that quiet, compliant child, the one who never steps out of line, who never makes a peep, is actually paying a heavy price that we just can't see? Let's dig into some research that might just flip your whole idea of a good child completely on its head.
And that gets us to the heart of the matter, the price of control. It turns out that getting that perfect obedience, that total compliance, well, it comes with a huge and often invisible trade-off for a child's real development.
So, this quote comes from some really key research in a child development journal. And look, on the surface, that sounds amazing, doesn't it? Quiet, well-behaved, they don't push back. I mean, for a tired parent, that sounds like the absolute dream. But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? There is a massive catch. The researchers didn't just stop there. They looked deeper, and what they found reveals the real, unintended consequence of this whole approach. And here it is. This is the other side of the coin. Those same quiet, well-behaved kids, they were also found to be less curious. They showed less originality. They were hesitant to try new things. And this is a big one. They interacted less with other kids. The very things that spark creativity and social skills were being snuffed out. Let's make this super real for a second. Imagine a little kid hears a parent say something harsh, maybe an insult or just a sharp tone. Later, the kid mimics it. The knee-jerk reaction is to punish them for disrespect. But wait a minute, what's actually happening? The child is learning. They're observing. They're trying something out. We're actually punishing a natural learning process just because it doesn't fit our neat little box of good behavior. So you can see how this one little interaction builds into something way, way bigger. We're moving beyond just parenting styles here and into a trap that's all over our society, the system of reward and punishment. It's what we call external regulation, and it's basically a system where everything you do is controlled by outside forces. Gold stars, praise, bonuses on one side, and timeouts, shame, getting grounded on the other. It completely skips over the part where a kid is supposed to develop their own internal compass, their own conscience. Okay, so look at this breakdown. It's so important. On one side, you've got external control. That's basically running on our animal brain, doing things to get a treat or to avoid a zap. But here's the weakness. It only works when someone is watching. On the other side, you have internal motivation. This is our higher level human mind at work, acting out of curiosity, learning from our own mistakes, and get this, being self-regulating. And you can probably guess what happens when these kids grow up, right? They become the yes men at the office who are terrified to disagree, or they become the ultimate people pleasers, so used to meeting everyone else's needs that they end up feeling like a human dustbin, where everybody just dumps their problems and they don't know how to set a single boundary. This next quote just hits so hard because it sums up the entire tragedy of this approach. In that one moment where we get a quiet, compliant child, we risk losing the real, authentic, curious person they were supposed to be forever. Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? If we ditch this whole external control thing, where do we put our energy? Well, that brings us to our invisible strengths, the things that truly define us as human beings. It's all about what we call the invisible self. And this is the stuff you can't see, you can't put on a resume, but it's what makes you, well, you. It's your resilience when you fail, your willpower, your empathy for others. These are the things that truly define your humanity. I want to tell you a story that just perfectly illustrates this. Think about this. There's this brilliant surgeon, top of his field. He's celebrated at work, called a hero, saves lives every single day. On paper, he's the definition of success. But here's the kicker. Behind closed doors, he admits he thinks his junior staff and even his patients are garbage. His entire identity is wrapped up in the external validation, the skill, the title, being the hero. But his internal humanity, his empathy, it's just not there. And that just forces you to ask, doesn't it? Is that surgeon just his amazing skill set? Is a person defined only by their job title, by the things we can see and measure? Or is the real measure of a person that invisible stuff on the inside? So really, it all comes down to this one huge choice.
a choice we have to make for ourselves and for the kids we're raising. Are we trying to build genuine humanity, or are we just training hypocrisy?
You know, there's a really cool way to think about this, and it's by looking at our own evolution. For ages, there were beings that looked human. They used tools, they hunted, they had families, they had the physical form down, but they were running on pure instinct. And then, something changed. A spark. Call it a soul, call it consciousness. This is what made us different. It gave us the ability to choose, to have an inner life.
And here's why that matters so much. That whole system of reward and punishment, the carrot and the stick, it's literally based on animal training. It treats human beings like we're still in that first stage, just intelligent animals to be trained. It completely ignores the very consciousness that makes us human in the first place.
And that right there, that is the seed. It's the very origin of the hypocrisy and the two-faced behavior we see everywhere in society. When you teach a kid to perform for a reward, they learn to be one person when you're watching and a completely different person when you're not. They learn to have a dual personality.
So I'm just going to leave you with this one last question to really chew on. When we fall back on control, on rewards and punishments, what are we really creating? Are we raising a person with a real, internal, self-regulating conscience? Or are we just raising a creature, expertly trained to respond? The choice, ultimately, is ours.